Meet Malik Anderson, a 32-year-old software engineer who's both brilliant and humble. Malik is the epitome of perseverance, growing up in a modest neighborhood and working tirelessly to build a career in the tech industry. Standing tall with sharp features and a calm demeanor, his piercing brown eyes reflect both wisdom and determination. Malik's intelligence is undeniable. He graduated at the top of his class and earned accolades for innovative projects. Yet he's often overlooked, his successes downplayed in subtle ways. At his core, Malik is deeply empathetic, often mentoring young people in his community and encouraging them to pursue careers in STEM fields. Despite his outward confidence, Malik harbors a silent insecurity, the constant fear of not being seen for who he truly is, but rather through the lens of stereotypes. This makes him work twice as hard, determined to shatter every preconceived notion. Every morning, Malik starts his day with a quick workout, pushing himself not just physically, but mentally. As he steps into the office, he's greeted by a sea of cubicles and an overwhelming sense of rigidity. The atmosphere is polite but distant, and Malik can't help but notice how his white colleagues are treated with a warmth he rarely receives. At his desk, he dives into coding with unwavering focus, often solving complex problems that others avoid. Yet, during meetings, his ideas are sometimes ignored until a white colleague reiterates them. Despite this, Malik maintains a professional demeanor, masking his frustration. Evenings are a stark contrast. Back home, Malik is surrounded by laughter and love, whether it's his mother's warm cooking or his little niece showing off her latest drawing. This stark difference between his workplace and home life keeps him grounded, but also highlights the inequities he endures. Malik works at Tech Horizons, a company known for its innovation but not its diversity. The office is sleek, with glass walls and open spaces that ironically foster isolation more than collaboration. Employees like Malik often sit on the fringes, both literally and metaphorically. The company culture is subtly discriminatory. Social events are catered to a predominantly white staff, with little regard for inclusivity. Malik notices how he and other employees of color are often assigned menial tasks or excluded from leadership discussions. At the center of this environment is Mr. Richard Clark, the company's CEO. A middle-aged white man with a commanding presence, Richard exudes confidence but carries an air of superiority. He speaks of meritocracy but rarely promotes non-white employees to leadership roles. Malik's interactions with Richard are limited but telling. He often receives curt replies or patronizing smiles, leaving no doubt about the power dynamic. The cracks in this seemingly professional environment become more apparent with time. Malik notices how he's consistently overlooked for promotions despite outperforming his peers. During one quarterly review, Richard dismisses Malik's achievements as part of the team's success, while a less qualified white colleague is promoted. Small but sharp incidents pile up. Malik's suggestions and meetings are downplayed, his work assigned to others without acknowledgement, and casual comments from Richard like, "You people are really good at multitasking," sting more than they appear to on the surface. Malik feels the tension brewing. He pushes himself harder, but the weight of unspoken discrimination chips away at his patience. A single thought lingers in his mind: how long before something gives? The morning seemed like any other as Malik stepped into the office, unaware that his life was about to take a drastic turn. Just as he was finishing up a complex project, an abrupt email from Richard's assistant appeared in his inbox, urgent. "Please report to Mr. Clark's office at 11 a.m. Walking into the office, Malik felt a familiar chill. Richard sat behind his imposing mahogany desk, his fingers steepled as he glanced up with a perfunctory smile that didn't reach his eyes. To Malik's surprise, the HR manager was also present, her expression unreadable. "Malik," Richard began, his tone heavy with condescension, "we've appreciated your contributions, but unfortunately, it seems like your work isn't aligning with our current goals." Malik's stomach dropped. "What do you mean? I've exceeded every target and just completed a project that saved the company thousands. Richard's expression hardened. Yes, but your approach has been divisive. We need team players here. Effective immediately, your position is terminated. The words hung in the air like a punch to the gut. Malik struggled to process the suddenness of it all. Richard's tone was firm but dismissive, as if Malik's years of dedication could be erased with a single meeting. Is this really about performance? Malik asked, his voice steady but laced with indignation. Richard didn't flinch. This is not up for debate, Malik. Security will escort you out. The HR manager avoided eye contact as Malik was handed a termination letter with vague language that justified nothing. As Malik gathered his belongings under the watchful eyes of security, waves of disbelief and anger coursed through him. His desk, once a place of pride, now felt like a stage of humiliation. How could years of dedication be dismissed so callously? Every late night, every weekend sacrificed to exceed expectations, all reduced to nothing. Malik replayed Richard's words in his head, his thinly veiled excuses masking what Malik knew was the real reason: the color of his skin. By the time he exited the building, the weight of the moment fully hit him. Outside, he sank onto a nearby bench, his hands trembling. He felt a mix of emotions: rage at the injustice, sadness for the lost opportunity, and fear for what this meant for his future. Malik had responsibilities, including supporting his mother and mentoring local youth. What would they think of him now? But beneath the despair, a small spark of resolve ignited. They don't get to define me, he thought. The firing sent shockwaves through Malik's daily life. The structured routine he'd built around his job was suddenly gone, leaving an unsettling void. Mornings that once began with a sense of purpose now felt aimless. His bank account, carefully managed to support his family, suddenly seemed precarious without a steady paycheck. At home, his mother noticed the change immediately. "You've been quiet, Malik. What's wrong?" she asked one evening. He hesitated, but finally admitted, "I was let go. They said I wasn't a team player." Her face fell, but she quickly offered words of encouragement. "You're more than that job. Don't let them break your spirit." Malik spent hours reflecting on the incident, replaying every detail. He realized this wasn't just about him. It was about the systemic discrimination that countless others faced. As he lay awake one night, his mind raced with ideas of how to expose the truth and reclaim his dignity. The next morning, Malik made a vow to himself. "They've taken my job, but they won't take my voice." With renewed determination, he began formulating a plan, not just to fight back, but to turn the setback into an opportunity for justice. Malik's decision to take a stand didn't come lightly, but once made, he threw himself into action. His first step was filing a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission (EOC), detailing the blatant discrimination he had endured. Despite the risk of retaliation, Malik also reached out to a prominent local advocacy group specializing in workplace equity, hoping to amplify his voice. The community quickly rallied behind him. Social media posts about his unjust firing began circulating, with hashtags like #JusticeForMalik gaining traction. Former employees of Richard's company started coming forward anonymously, sharing eerily similar experiences of bias and discrimination. The workplace, however, was a cauldron of mixed reactions. Malik's closest colleagues, some of whom had privately expressed their admiration for his resilience, sent messages of support. But others, particularly those seeking to stay in Richard's good graces, began spreading rumors to tarnish Malik's reputation. Maybe he just wasn't cut out for the role. One colleague whispered in the break room. Richard wouldn't fire someone without cause. Back at the company, Richard's initial confidence began to falter. Anonymous tips to the local press hinted at a broader pattern of racism within the organization, putting the company under public scrutiny. The pressure mounted, and Richard knew he had to act swiftly to control the narrative. One of Malik's strongest allies emerged in the form of Sophia, an experienced civil rights attorney he connected with through the advocacy group. Sophia, a no-nonsense professional with a deep understanding of systemic workplace discrimination, immediately saw the potential in Malik's case. "This isn't just about you," she told him firmly during their first meeting. "It's about exposing a culture that allows this behavior to thrive." Sophia guided him through the legal process, helping him document every detail and prepare for a potentially long battle. Her confidence bolstered Malik's resolve, even as he wrestled with doubts. At home, his mother remained a pillar of strength. "You've always stood tall, Malik," she reminded him one evening. "This is no different. They're scared of your light. Don't let them dim it." Another unexpected ally was Chris, a former employee who had left the company after a similar experience. Chris became a valuable resource, sharing insights about the company's practices and offering emotional support. Despite the growing support around him, Malik couldn't shake moments of doubt and fear. What if the case dragged on for months or years? What if he couldn't find another job in the meantime? The financial strain began to weigh heavily on him, especially as bills piled up and job prospects seemed scarce. Late at night, Malik often found himself staring at the ceiling, battling an internal storm. Was I too confrontational? Should I have just let it go? But in these dark moments, he'd recall the faces of young men he had inspired through his community work. They had looked up to him as a symbol of perseverance and success. The thought of letting them down reignited his determination. In a particularly poignant moment, Malik confided in Sophia. "What if I lose? What if this only makes things worse for me?" Sophia placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "The fight isn't just about winning, Malik. It's about standing up for what's right. Even if you lose, your courage will inspire others to take a stand." These words stayed with Malik. He began channeling his frustration into constructive action, speaking at local events and sharing his story to shed light on workplace discrimination. One evening, as Malik sifted through emails, he stumbled upon an unexpected piece of evidence, a copy of an internal memo inadvertently sent to his personal email address. The document outlined a deliberate strategy to limit promotions for employees of color, including coded language referencing Malik by name. Heart-pounding, Malik forwarded the memo to Sophia, who immediately recognized its significance. "This is it," she said, her voice tinged with urgency. "This could blow the case wide open." Meanwhile, rumors swirled that a local investigative journalist was planning to release an exposé on Richard and his discriminatory practices. The tension was palpable, with both sides bracing for the inevitable clash. Malik felt a mix of anticipation and dread. The evidence was compelling, but he knew the battle ahead would be anything but easy. The turning point came on the day of the public hearing. The room was filled with a tense mixture of reporters, community members, and employees past and present. Malik sat at a long wooden table next to Sophia, clutching a folder containing the damning memo. Across from him, Richard sat stiffly, flanked by a high-powered legal team. Richard's demeanor was calm at first, his expression smug, as if the outcome had already been decided in his favor. He leaned back in his chair, occasionally glancing around as if to say, "This is a waste of time." But Malik wasn't intimidated. He had prepared for this moment, drawing strength from the community that had rallied behind him. As the proceedings began, Sophia laid out a compelling case, citing Malik's exemplary performance and the suspicious circumstances of his termination. When it was Malik's turn to speak, he rose from his chair with a quiet determination. His voice was steady as he recounted the years of subtle discrimination and the blatant injustice of his firing. "This isn't just about me," he said, looking directly at Richard. "It's about the countless others who have been silenced, who were too afraid to stand up. Today, their voices are being heard." The pivotal moment came when Sophia presented the memo. The room fell silent as she displayed it on a projector screen, the incriminating words stark against the white background. "This document, Sophia said, was written and circulated by Mr. Richards' management team. It details a deliberate strategy to limit the opportunities of employees based on race. Malik's name is explicitly mentioned as someone to be kept in check. Gasps echoed through the room. Reporters furiously jotted down notes, cameras flashing as the memo's contents were read aloud. Malik watched as Richard's confidence visibly crumbled. His face flushed, and his attorneys whispered urgently in his ear. But the fallout didn't stop there. Former employees, emboldened by Malik's courage, had submitted affidavits detailing their own experiences of discrimination. A particularly damning testimonial came from Chris, who had been a trusted manager before leaving the company in frustration. I witnessed firsthand how Richard dismissed qualified black employees for promotions, Chris testified. It wasn't just negligence. It was a calculated effort to maintain a status quo. Richard's attempts to deny the allegations were weak at best. The evidence was overwhelming, and it was clear to everyone in the room that his career was in freefall. As the hearing adjourned, Malik walked out of the courthouse to a throng of supporters. Cameras flashed, and people chanted his name, but Malik felt a complex mix of emotions. There was vindication, of course, a deep sense of relief that justice had been served and that his efforts had led to such a significant outcome. But there was also a lingering sadness. Malik couldn't help but think about how much he had lost in the process, the sleepless nights, the financial strain, and the emotional toll on his family. I didn't do this for revenge, he told a reporter who pushed a microphone toward him. I did this to make sure no one else has to go through what I did. Change doesn't happen by staying silent. That night, Malik sat at his kitchen table with his mother, reviewing the flood of messages pouring in on social media. People from across the country were sharing their own stories, thanking him for inspiring them to stand up against injustice. You've started something bigger than yourself, his mother said, smiling proudly. This is only the beginning. Malik nodded, feeling a quiet sense of fulfillment. For the first time in a long time, he looked toward the future with hope. Months after the courtroom victory, Malik had found a renewed sense of purpose. With the compensation from the case, he took some time to regroup and reflect. Instead of rushing into another job, he chose to focus on giving back. Malik began volunteering at a local community center, mentoring young professionals from marginalized backgrounds. He shared his experiences and offered guidance on navigating challenges in the workplace. His story resonated with many, sparking a movement of empowerment and self-advocacy. At the same time, Malik secured a new position at a progressive company renowned for its inclusive culture. During his first week, he was struck by the stark difference. Managers here genuinely valued their employees, encouraging open dialogue and celebrating diversity. Malik felt a sense of belonging he had never experienced before. But his journey didn't stop there. Malik launched a small initiative called Workplace Equality Now, aimed at raising awareness about discrimination and providing resources to victims. It was his way of turning pain into purpose, ensuring his battle against injustice left a lasting impact. The ripple effects of Malik's case extended far beyond his personal life. Richard's company faced widespread scrutiny, resulting in major reforms. A diversity and inclusion board was established, and several discriminatory policies were dismantled. Employees who had once been too afraid to speak out found their voices, contributing to a cultural shift. In the broader community, Malik's story became a beacon of hope. Local organizations began hosting workshops on workplace rights, inspired by his efforts. Students in high schools and colleges invited him to speak, eager to learn how they could challenge systemic inequalities. Malik's courage also inspired his colleagues from his previous workplace. Some reached out to express their gratitude, saying his bravery had given them the strength to demand better treatment in their own jobs. The collective change was undeniable. One evening, Malik sat on his balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink. He thought back to the man he had been, quiet, hard-working, and deeply afraid of rocking the boat. The man he had become was different, stronger, wiser, and unafraid to speak his truth. He realized that the journey wasn't just about holding one person accountable. It was about dismantling a system that allowed discrimination to thrive. While there were still battles to fight, Malik felt a profound sense of pride in knowing he had taken the first step. "I never wanted this fight," he murmured to himself. "But maybe I was meant for it." The thought brought a small, peaceful smile to his face. The next day, Malik stood in a room filled with applause as he accepted an award for community leadership. As he held the plaque, engraved with the words, "For courage in the face of adversity," he looked out at the crowd and saw a sea of faces, diverse, hopeful, and inspired. "This award isn't just for me," he said into the microphone. "It's for everyone who has ever been silenced, overlooked, or underestimated. Together, we can create a world where justice isn't just a word, but a reality." The audience rose to their feet, the applause thunderous. Malik felt a surge of emotion as he stepped off the stage. He was no longer the man who quietly endured. He was a man who had made a difference. As he walked outside into the crisp night air, he spotted a young man waiting for him. "Thank you," the man said quietly. "You gave me hope." Malik nodded, his heart full. He had found his purpose, and his journey was only just beginning. If you found Malik's story inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Stories like these remind us of the power of resilience and justice. Let's stand together against injustice. Your voice matters.